Hi everyone, I'm Chris with National Parents Organization, and today I've got Brian Ulrich here, and he's here to talk about child support. And Brian is our child support specialist for the National Parents Organization. Brian, thanks for coming on.
You're very welcome. I appreciate the opportunity to present today. Mark Ludwig's done a fantastic job putting this together. Very much appreciate it.
So, Brian, tell me, how did you get started with the National Parents Organization, and what's your background with child support?
So, my background with family law reform overall dates back to 2009. When I'm a resident of Minnesota. When I first started working with an organization called Center for Parental Responsibility, led by Molly Olson. I ended up connecting with NPO when they requested my assistance in 2019 to help put together a study of child support.
Yeah, and that study was really a landmark study, and if you look at it, there's really quite a bit of variation across the states. I was really surprised to see that.
Yeah, we definitely demonstrated that. So we went in and worked with all 50 states' child support guidelines and calculators. And we looked at if they were to use the national model of calculating cost of raising children that's done by the USDA, found that the current method of calculating child support across the states results in orders that far exceed the actual cost of raising the child. And we also found, as you mentioned, tremendous variance between states in what those orders calculated out to.
From what I know about the system, there's really not that much guidance from the federal government as far as what the states need to adhere to. I know they have to review it. What is it, every 4 years? But it doesn't seem like beyond that, there's a whole lot of guidance from the federal government. And is that what's leading to this lack of standardization?
Yes, very much so. In my opinion, at least, given what we see in how these calculations go, it was not a wise move for the federal government. They're the ones that set this program up, and then they just tossed it over to the states. They didn't even define what child support was.
And there aren't the states, they're incentivized by how much child support they make people pay and how much they collect and those sorts of things. I mean, tell us a little bit about the incentives that the states have with the Title 4D program.
These orders end up, as I mentioned, in many cases far exceeding the actual cost of raising children. One thing I wanted to share in this presentation that's really, really important for people to take in. There was a study done under the leadership of Stephen Eldred in Orange County, California, some years ago, where he asked his program, his department, to evaluate what impact they were having on poverty in their county. And the result of that study was truly, I guess I'll call it sickening, saddening. What they found was that of the payers, 90% of whom are fathers, 10% are mothers, but of the payers that came into the child support program uh, that were not impoverished when they came in to be a child support payer were impoverished after becoming a child support payer. 50%, one half. And this is a program that nationwide has about 15 million children enrolled in it. So, what that does to our societal underpinnings, you can only imagine. There is a theory by too many in the child support arena that work in child support who have believed that the larger the payment that can be generated, the that's in the best interest of the child. Well, in fact, we know through extensive amounts of studies that children benefit most when they have both parents involved in their life. The consequences of that are substantial. Less pregnancies, better outcomes at school, less drug use. The benefits are remarkable for these children. And after all, this is about the children. This is about taking care of the cost of raising the child. So, impoverishing one of their parents is not in a child's best interest. We've seen over the years, unfortunately, that people involved in the child support system too often view that as the maximizing the child support amount as the end goal. Certainly, it needs to be adequate for the cost of care, but it should never be impoverishing one of their parents.
Yeah, that's an incredible statistic. I mean those are huge numbers, and to put that many people under the poverty line, it's really incredible.
And not all recipient parents have tremendous amounts of resources. However, they have access to tax benefits that are fairly substantial. In essence, the federal tax code and some of the state tax codes have almost created a separate child support system all of their own, with the head of household and child tax credits, the different benefits that flow through to that recipient parent, not to mention the public assistance programs that they often uniquely qualify for that the payer does not.
I know a few years ago they changed it so alimony was taxable, but child support isn't. So if people are paying child support that's above the cost of care, that's effectively alimony that's not taxed.
Your point is well taken. It's understood, but there's been no accomplishment in addressing that yet.
I want to talk a little bit about parenting time offset and how that really affects orders. And is it true that numerous states still don't have a parenting time offset in their orders?
Remarkably, that is true. At our study that we did several years back, uh, we saw that about 7 states had no offset. So not only are these parents paying, orders that are more than the cost of raising the child, but then when they have the children, they're being given no credit or deduction for the costs they're incurring when they have them. So it just adds further to the unfairness and ridiculousness of the calculation.
And on the federal level, are there any changes that we can make at the federal level to really impact this program in a positive way?
Well, one of the things I would suggest is that we look to establish what is child support, that the federal 4D program address that as the cost of raising a child. If you were to ask people on the street what they consider to be child support, the majority of them would answer, well, that's taking care of the cost of raising a child. That is not the way the system was developed in the late 80s. And remarkably, for all these decades, the programs made very little changes to that. Another significant area that we haven't talked about is child support enforcement. And there's one thing in that area that is really creating a lot of havoc for paying parents. And again, these are both fathers and mothers. And that is the credit reporting requirements that are imposed through the federal law in the states. This was added as a requirement back in the late 90s. And at that time, credit reporting was not nearly as threaded into our society as it is now. When you get reported with a negative credit report, especially if it's child support related, it has significant impacts on very many important areas. Another area that doesn't get enough consideration in the credit reporting is that insurance rates are now tied to that. And it can make a difference of hundreds of dollars a month. So there are so many negative consequences of that. It should be written back out of the federal law.
Fantastic. And if people want to learn more, they can go to the National Parents Organization website and you can go click on issues and then child support. And there is a ton of information on that website. Brian, any closing thoughts on this topic?
Just to emphasize, this is a program, NPO supports the child support program as an important social uh, safety net. However, it has significant flaws that need to be identified. We have worked to identify those, and they need to be addressed and fixed.
All right, Brian, thank you so much. And thank you to Mark Ludwig for putting this on. And we really appreciate your input on this topic.
Good to see you again, Chris. Appreciate it.